Black people have existed in anime since the very beginning, and we've been depicted from the respectful to the very disrespectful. But have any of these been perfect? Aaron here from Black Anime to discuss what makes the perfect Black anime character. Plus, we're going to talk about the history of Black anime characters and who have gotten close. So sit back and let's get to it. You could argue that bad representations of Black people in anime can be traced back to representations of Black people in Western media. The first true anime to ever exist is Astro Boy, which was released in 1963 by Mushi Productions. The story by Osamu Tezuka would become the inspiration for what anime would look and be like. However, this was 35 years after the United States had already published their first animation or cartoon called Steamboat Willie. Steamboat Willie would feature the soon-to-be corporate giant mascot Mickey Mouse and was released in 1928. Because of its impact on the animation medium, in 1998, the film was selected for preservation in the United States National Film Registry. And Steamboat Willie was significant. It would push other studios such as Warner Brothers to compete with the growing Disney empire. Now, for most people, after seeing the positive and fun nature of Steamboat Willie, you would think that animations of this time would keep the same vibe. That they would never add, troublesome and negative stuff to that kind of medium. But again, if you thought that, then you don't know the United States. The Censored 11 are 11 banned cartoons made by Warner Brothers between the years of 1931 and 1941. None of these cartoons have been shown since 1968 because of just how bad their racism was. The cartoons contained in the Censored 11 included titles such as Sunday Go to Meeting Time, Clean Pastures, Jungle Jitters, The Isle of Pingo Pongo, Uncle Tom's Boogaloo, Angel Puss, Tin Pan Alley Cats, and so much more. In all these shorts, Black people are shown with huge unnatural pink lips that heavily contrast their dark skin. That definitely mimics the minstrel shows that they were based on.
Well, why don't you get a job and go to work?
You almost had me a job this morning.
Where?
I went down to the post office and asked that man, could he let me have one of them jobs as a letter toter?
The characters talked in incoherent slang and were routinely tormented by their white counterparts, who were almost always shown as their betters. This doesn't even dive into how much these shorts weaponize stereotypes about Black people. From eating watermelon, being addicted to gambling, being criminals, being lazy, lacking intelligence, and many, many more, they made sure to cover all their bases. I know right now I'm focused on Warner Brothers, but if you were to check the 1940s cut of Disney's Fantasia, you'd see a character called Sunflower the Centaur, who embodies these same characteristics. No industry or company was safe from the racism that infected everything at that time. These caricatures of Black people were carried directly into how we were shown in anime. The most popular and most discussed character being Mr. Popo from Dragon Ball. The Dragon Ball anime initially aired in 1986, 40 years after the creation of the Censored 11 and 23 years after Astro Boy. The influence from Astro Boy is seen evidently in the series. It improves on the art style and animation, but you can tell that it was heavily inspired by its predecessor. But with its Black or Black adjacent characters, you can see the influence of Western animation. The big pink lips, heavily contrasting the dark skin. I mean, honestly, if you didn't tell me different, you couldn't convince me that Mr. Popo wasn't a part of the Censored 11. Mr. Popo isn't the only character in the series that carries this caricature. Staff Officer Black and Killer from Dragon Ball both share that distinct minstrel look, and that's just the tip of the iceberg. Anime from then all the way till now still has characters that carry that same caricature. Simone from Durara, Black Luster from One Punch Man, Jinx from Pokemon, and many others. Japan being a nearly homogeneous nation, they receive a lot of their outlooks on other cultures and races from that nation's media. And with the groundbreaking nature of Steamboat Willie, Mickey Mouse had become a household name around the globe. Now, this isn't abdicating blame from Japan for their racist caricatures of Black people in anime, but we've got some characters that have gotten really close to perfect. So it just makes it all the more mystifying when we get characters that revert back to that 1940s interpretation. But thinking on it, what makes those nearly perfect characters different? What's being done differently with them than the other characters around them. The rise of famous black actors, actors, entertainers, and more would help reshape the image of black people in popular media. As our friend Tony Weaver Jr. says in this TikTok,
African manga character was drawn in 1964, he had all those stereotypes and more. But the same year, Sidney Poitier did something that couldn't be ignored. He became the first black man to win an Academy Award. His acting crossed so many international lines, Japanese animators used him to give the character a new design.
Sidney Poitier and many other famous black people would begin to change the way that we are looked at within popular media. As Japanese directors, producers, and more would see this, they begin to change the way that we were depicted in their media. And no conversation about accurately representing black people in anime can be started without talking about Shinichiro Watanabe. And if you've seen our video on why do black people love anime, you kind of understand why we have to bring him up. Watanabe is the man responsible for shows like Samurai Champloo, Carole & Tuesday, Kids on the Slope, and Cowboy Bebop. Now, if that last one sounds familiar, then yes, that is the same Cowboy Bebop that got an adaptation on Netflix. General opinions aside, Watanabe made sure to create a diverse and accurately represented cast in all of his anime. And he wasn't the only one. This takes us to our first point in accurately representing black people in anime, and that's art style.
You are now tuned into the Black Anime Podcast.
Not the same. Bro, that nigga was strong.
Now, as I've said before, in the past, we were very used to black or black adjacent characters being dressed up in the minstrel style. Robotech 2 The Sentinels, an anime movie made in 1988, gave us Bowie Graham. The first thing you notice about his character that differs from past iterations is his lip color and size. They are way more accurate to actual black people, make him look like an actual black person and not a white person in blackface. This is only 2 years after we got Dragon Ball. The art style used to create a character is important in showing who they are and how us, the viewers, and even the people in the anime will see them. Watanabe in 1998 gave us Coffee, Shaft, and in 2019 he gave us Carol, GGK, Dan, the Mermaid Sisters, Skip, and Ezekiel from Carole & Tuesday. All good looking black characters that we could see ourselves reflected in. It doesn't stop there though. The diversity in black hairstyles that don't make us look like we have a disorganized mess on top of our head is important to the character of a black person. The high top fade for Akagi Takanori in Slam Dunk, Mira Nagus' dreadlocks in Soul Eater, Wiley's fade with the part in Jormungand, and many others. However, there's only one anime that seemed to get a distinct part of their art style correct when it came into creating a black character. And that's Yasuke from the Yasuke anime in 2019. There's a certain thing that's different about him than almost any other black character we've ever been given, and that's that his palms are lighter than the rest of his skin, which is accurate. That's how it is being a black person. So I'm hoping this is something that catches on and we see more of in the future. So art style is one thing that's important in creating a black character. They have to look the part, but then they also have to act the part. Early animations used stereotypes of black people as a way to belittle them. And this is something that we would often see carried on in Japanese animation too. We see this with characters who, speak in jive or fast-talking slang.
Man, I tell you that, man, I've been taught to work you up like a jackhammer out there.
Are outwardly aggressive for no reason, and are just embodiments of black stereotypes. And there's no way I couldn't be talking about a character that raps on screen for no reason when no one else in the series does that.
Yo, say ho!
But instead of focusing on the negative, let's go ahead and praise the positive ones we've been given, the ones that fit all the criteria to a T, from actions to art style.
Not the same, bro. Not even close.
And there's no other better character to start out with than Afro from Afro Samurai. He's just overall a cool character. Like he can fight well, he has a good attitude, like he does everything that makes you want to root for him, and not because he's black, but because he's a dope character. We could also say this about Ogun Montgomery from Fire Force, who not only looks fantastic, but is giving it an amazing personality. Dorothy from The Great Pretenders, who is intelligent and beautiful, and Musa from Run with the Wind, whose tenacity and good energy really captured my heart. These aren't characters who are just black for the sake of it. These are characters who fully inhabit the world and are in most ways fully realized. Musa, one of my personal favorites, deals with being an African college student in Japan who chooses to be a long distance runner. He deals with the reality that a lot of his black counterparts in the show came to Japan for the distinct reason of being a long distance runner. While for him, it was just a hobby that he just decided to take on. When he finally accepts his love for the sport in himself, he is acknowledged by the other African runners. He figures out that the point wasn't being the best runner, but to work hard to figure out who you are. Joining the running team and fighting to get where he is at the end of the show helps him conquer his internal and external struggles. And that's what's beautiful about his character. Although he isn't the main character, he still has his own unique issues that gives him his own character arc. He doesn't solely piggyback off the main character, but is in a lot of ways independent of him. This is really all to say that if you haven't watched Run With The Wind yet, you are severely missing out. Like, you need to watch that ASAP. Now, I could end the video here, but I feel like I haven't answered the initial question of, does the perfect black anime character exist? Short answer is, I'm not sure. I feel like most of them have faults or falter in some way. And whether that's character dependent or story dependent, they all usually fall short. To borrow an example, I'm gonna use Yasuke from the Netflix anime of the same name, Yasuke. The story of the real Yasuke is of a black slave turned samurai under Nobunaga Oda. We get tidbits of this in the story, however, that's not what the anime is about, which is necessarily fine. There's not a terrible amount of information about Yasuke under Nobunaga Oda, and it's necessarily commonplace for these kinds of stories to add some fiction to bridge the gap in what's missing. From the outside looking in, there's really no issues with Yasuke. He's a beautifully crafted character, from his hair all the way down to the soles of his feet. How he acts and his attitudes steer very far away from the stereotypes we have become used to. If I were to stop there, then we probably do have the perfect black anime character. But once we dive into the story, it kind of changes a little bit. In the United States and possibly other countries, we have a film term called the white savior trope.
A story about people of color that centers on the benevolent actions of a white character.
Any civil rights movie, there's two heroes. There's the black hero and the white person that's equally as important.
The white savior trope is when filmmakers or directors add in a white, or in other cases non-black, character to help the black character out of unfortunate circumstances, when in reality, that character wasn't there at all or didn't even need to be there. If you want an example, then look no further than Hidden Figures.
The real Katherine Johnson says she had to watch the launch from her desk. Furthermore, it turns out that Al Harrison never even existed.
The director themselves admitted to adding in a white character that didn't exist in real life to help the main all-black characters. The story of the three black women would have been just as amazing without this character. Why would you add a character like that? His addition derails from the point of the story, which exalted those three women for fighting against adversity and becoming legends in their own right.
Kevin Costner's character is what's known as a white savior. A white character who saves a person of color from their troubles. Troubles that the person of color can't save themselves from.
Yasuke has a similar issue. The story starts as a narrative about a wayward samurai who no longer has a master. Sad and alone, Yasuke drinks away his problems and earns a living as a humble boatsman. When the journey begins, the story derails from being about his return to the samurai lifestyle, and instead he becomes the bodyguard for a little magical girl. The story is no longer about Yasuke and instead about his duty to this little girl. We as an audience are now forced to focus on why this little girl is so important and why Yasuke must protect her. And this is a trap that a lot of black characters fall into. Their personal stories become background noise for the non-black characters that they are usually tasked with or stuck with. And this is what kind of changes a lot of would-be good characters to just okay characters. So do we have a perfect black anime character? I don't know, but that's all I have for this video. If you made it this far, please subscribe, drop a like, drop a comment, and let us know if you think there has been a perfect black anime character. At the end of the day, this is all opinions, so anything goes. But I'm signing off, so check you guys on the next one.